Hi there, thank you for joining us. It's Joanne Ernst here from Joanne Ernst Consulting, and I'm very excited to introduce you to my friend DougStoddard. Doug and I actually met on social media a couple of months ago now, and he's helped me just make some shifts in my thinking and opened up some new resources to me that I found really helpful, so I wanted to share it with you. And the big thing for me is that we get stuck. You know, what is it that keeps us stuck? What is it that gets us into that place of overwhelm and frustration, and more importantly, how do we get out of it? So yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing what Doug's got to share. He's a coach with the Mandino group, and I'll let him fill you in on all of that, and looking forward to hearing what you've got to share with us today, Doug. So take it away.
Thanks, Joe. And I really appreciate it. I appreciate everybody who has taken the time to get on today.
Likewise.
And you're going to hear some things that you say, man, I've heard those before, or I know that. You ever done that, Joe?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
The tendency of our mind is to, at that point, to shut down. Oh, I already know that. I've heard this before, type of thing. But until we take what we hear or what we know, and it goes into our heart and into our actions, it's really not our information. We're just borrowing it and using it occasionally. But the information and what we know will not change our lives until it goes internal and a habit is created around it. That's why, have you ever noticed, Joe, that so often we hear a motivational speech. We read a book that kind of lights our fire inside of us, a great idea. Yeah. We go on a webinar and we hear something, man, that's really good. I'd really like to do it. We listen to Mel Robbins, Darren Hardy, whatever.
I'm reading that at the moment, yeah.
Okay. And it excites us, lights us up, kind of like a lightning in the dark sky, really bright, brilliant. And then what happens after the lightning?
And you get busy with the kids and everything else.
Exactly.
Well, I do. It's interesting.
Yeah. And it can actually get darker because we get excited and then the light goes out because life shows up, right?
Yeah. I really liked what you said to me a couple of weeks ago as well about when you raise your expectations so very high. And I think that's what you're alluding to there. And then you start to look back at reality and there's too much dissonance between the two.
Yeah, there's a real gap, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Is if you can imagine that we're all in a boat. You're in your own boat, right? Mm-hmm. Which is your life, and off to the distance you see your island. You see the place where you want to go. Sometimes it's pretty foggy. We're not clear where we want to go in a certain area of our life or how to get there. Other times it's really clear, but so often we find ourselves with this gap. Like you mentioned, the gap between where we are and where we want to be. And we're in this boat, and so often, sometimes we feel like the anchor's still out.
Right.
It's a sailboat, and the anchor's still out, but we're not going anywhere.
Kind of dragging, yeah.
Yeah, we're trying to drag along. Or we got a bunch of holes in our boat.
It's leaking, yeah.
Right, we got all these issues going on with children and families and jobs. And we don't have enough hands and help to plug the boat, plug the holes in the boat. Other times we get out there and we're going towards where we want to go and we get lots of turbulence and waves. The wind changes. The wind can change and leave us in what we call a still place. And we're just not moving. Mm-hmm. We can still see it over there and it's really frustrating. Or we can get tempests and storms and seems to blow us back. So that's an analogy of the boat and sail. Yeah. So life shows up. That's the change of the wind, is when life shows up. Starts first thing when you wake up in the morning. And how we set the sail and who we allow in the boat to help us set the sail determines our progress through the day, how we feel about ourselves. Do we have joy in the process? Are we peaceful? And how do we handle the storms or the shifting in the winds? Are we getting stronger and better at dealing with it? or is it kind of just continually setting us back?
Right.
And I'm a habit finder coach.
Mm-hmm.
And you say, oh, gee, what's that? Well, I'm going to talk about what that is today. And so, real briefly, could I tell everyone here?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Okay. We all create identities about ourselves. Our life experiences tend to put labels on us, or we allow other people to label us. So a couple of identities that I had picked up quite a while ago. The first one seems like most of my life, which I've been involved in a lot of sales, nutritional businesses, home businesses, small business, corporate. I've been a wide variety there. And it seemed like wherever I get put, it was kind of at the bottom of the pile. It was an area that wasn't growing. It was a business that was just starting. And it seemed like I could pick it up, build it over time, and I'd always end up at the top. Mm-hmm. That was my identity. Now, the second identity is we have 6 children.
Wow.
All of them are girls except for 5 boys. And so I'm not an expert on girls, although I did in a very special situation. So everyone was telling us, oh, Sue, that's my wife, Sue, and Doug, you are great parents. Your kids are so good. So that was my identity. So 2 things happened that really put a hole in my identity in those 2 areas. Mm-hmm. First one, we had moved in from the corporate world into a home business environment.
Right.
I started at the bottom, build it up, very successful. I was still working at the time, but then I was able to come home full time, be with my 6 children, going to the wrestling matches, going to the baseball games, all those things. Mm-hmm. It was wonderful. We were on distributor advisory boards. I was doing presentation, all this kind of great stuff. I was on top. Mm-hmm. And things changed. The wind changed. Mm-hmm. The owners were caught being dishonest. Lots of lawsuits. All of a sudden, it was a tornado that just sucked my boat down.
Yeah.
We ended up, we couldn't shift or change. I didn't know how in the environment I was in. And we ended up losing everything. Gosh. So now, here's my second identity. Right in the middle of that big storm, our only daughter says to us, she's about 15, says, I don't want anything more to do with you.
Gosh.
And it happened with our youngest son about shortly thereafter.
Wow.
And for 9 years, they shut us totally out of their life. What little conversation we had was very rigid and rough and uncomfortable, not knowing what to say, even through my daughter's marriage. Wow. So my 2 identities of who I was were shot.
Yeah.
At the bottom, this is where we are at the bottom of it. I was in a boat. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know how to set my sail. It seems like every day I get up and struggle with the same things, trying to look like I was successful, trying to appear I was because I'd been making all this money.
Yeah, you got a lifestyle to go along with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever been through something like that, where you have an event in your life that hits you, and you don't know how to pick up afterwards? And
I certainly have. Not as dramatic as that, I must admit, Doug. But yeah, I've certainly been there as well.
Well, and a lot of people out there today, the people who are listening to this right now, and those who will get on later, if you go through life long enough, you're going to have a few storms hit you. And I want to describe why it is that I was struggling for 9 to 10 years of picking it back up, working really hard, trying to get back up to the top of what I thought was success, and what kept pulling me down. What were the anchors? So that's what we're going to talk about today, if that's okay.
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah.
Okay. So there's 3 components to this. the first one is our brain.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's interesting. The brain has two parts to it. I'm going to keep this real simple, okay? I'm not a brain surgeon. So the top part, in essence, deals with our creative abilities, our emotional center, our logic, the things that really bring us a lot of happiness, joy, all those kinds of things. That's the top part. The bottom part, the lower part of the brain, is what controls our life.
Right.
Now, what I mean by that is we have about 80,000 thoughts per day. That's a lot of thinking. And the brain is like an iceberg, you know, the tip of an iceberg. Yeah. That's what we see. That's the emotional center, the creative center, all those, that's what we see and feel a lot of time. Underneath the 80,000 thoughts, where probably 90% of them are in the lower brain.
Yeah, subconscious. Huh?
Yeah, the subconscious. Now, there's two things that the subconscious totally functions on.
Mm.
The first one is safety. That's its total purpose, is to preserve us from doing something stupid that might kill us. Mm-hmm. Okay?
Trying to develop that in my toddler at the moment, yeah.
Oh, there you go. No walls. Well, that's right. Yeah. And the second thing is predictability.
Right.
And everything in the lower brain is funneled through those two things. If anything is outside of being safe and predictable, what do you think you start feeling?
Yeah, resistance, fear.
Those types of things.
Yeah.
Okay. Habits of thinking, which I'm going to go into next, are all located in the lower brain.
Is that why they're so hard to spot?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hard to find, identify, and more importantly, it's all biological. Not emotion, it's biological. So you're dealing with something that's totally ingrained in your subconscious.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we get lit up about a book, an idea, this is my goal, I'm going to go out and do this and this. The problem is we're trying to lift the anchor out of the lower brain.
Right.
And it's totally ingrained as a habit. So the second part of it are habits of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So where do you think habits of thinking come from?
Repeated patterns over time, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So years ago, as a young boy, I was delivering newspapers on my bicycle, and a dog would chase me every day. It was a race to see who could survive. One day, I was standing up pedaling, and the handle grip on my right-hand side of my bike came off, and I went right into the yard of the dog. Now, this is a big dog, okay? Yeah. And he bit me. I mean, it was a severe dog bite.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And so what do you think my response was from then on whenever I saw a big dog?
Yeah. Yeah, I can just imagine, yeah.
Fear, run, all those kinds of things. Well, after seeing that kind of dog for so long and running, I created a habit of thinking. And it not only went into seeing a dog and having fear and running from it, it soon began to appear anytime there was anything that looked like a dog, like a bully, or a confrontation.
Right, anything that you perceive as danger, yeah.
Danger. The reaction, the habit of thinking was, big dog.
Run. Yeah, it's pretty reasonable.
But that was hidden.
You can see where it came from.
Pretty soon, anything difficult in life came, I would run. I wouldn't deal with it.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So our life's experiences and how we've reacted to them over time have created habits of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
It's what controls your life. So when life shows up, a big dog, it pushes a chemical button.
Mm-hmm.
The mind opens up and starts sending the chemicals, the reactions, the cortisol,
Yeah.
which is fight or flight. That's all that lower brain does. It either fights it
Mm-hmm.
or flight. It runs. So when life shows up, pushes a button, the winds change. How do we react?
Mm.
What is our response system to that? Once you can identify that and then learn what to do in the moment to learn how to push a different button to create a new habit, you can, once you understand that, then you can begin to move forward and sustain the movement.
Yeah.
Not just motivation from a personal development book that gets you excited and then drops you, but rather learning how to create sustainability by creating new habits. Does that make sense?
It does, but how do you do it?
Okay.
That's
Well, now I want to bring up the last thing here, and that's gifts.
Mm-hmm.
With the Mandino group, they have a tool that measures with 100% accuracy how people think. Not what you think. I can't tell if you think I'm in Laos or a bum or or whatever. I can't. It doesn't tell you that. It tells you how you think when the buttons are pushed.
Yeah.
And it's based on It's based on high levels of math and science that were developed out of the University of Tennessee years ago. And the Mandino group developed a structure, a framework around it that makes it look very easy to understand. So after 100,000 of the people using these tools, and these were mostly entrepreneurs, people who are creators that even work in the corporate world,
Mm-hmm.
they're networkers, all kinds of people, but most of them were these creative thinkers type of people. And so you get a really good image of how these people are thinking when life shows up. And there's actually 5 strengths that entrepreneurs, creative thinkers have based on this tool that we've used that are tremendous gifts.
Mm.
But if they're not used properly, they can destroy you.
Yeah.
They can totally sink your ship. And so I just want to bring up 2 of them today because of time. Is that okay?
Yeah, that'd be great. I remember when I did the profiling tool myself, it was really insightful. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, this is kind of fun because when you use this tool, the measurements show up as little thermometers with colors on them. And the colors determine or tell you the frequency of this habit of thinking as well as the risk it is in your life. Well, when I took this initially, because I had been through the situation with our business imploding,
yeah,
and our children leaving and not wanting anything to do with this, my assessment looked like a Christmas tree with only orange and red bulbs on it. It was, I had all kinds of resistance. I had built walls around me.
Yeah.
That impacted my relationships, my belief in myself, comparing myself to others, and all kinds of stuff. And so, but anyway, it's the 2 gifts. The first one is we have a tremendous gift of imagination.
Mm-hmm.
The ability to see an image in our mind, to see the island, to see how about our jobs, how we'd like our job, our career to go, how our finances, our retirement, all these kinds of things. We have a tremendous capacity to see it quickly, just like that.
Yeah.
The challenge that people have, entrepreneurs, etc., is how they use this.
Mm.
The biggest challenge is with this ability to create an image so quickly, we also can create an expectation. Now, the expectations are generally, if we think about it long enough, are usually become a habit of thinking in the lower brain.
Right.
It becomes a lower brain reality.
Right.
Okay? So
Yeah.
now we've got this image of how our life should show up, or how our job should be, or how much income we should be making in our business. And suddenly, that's what the reality is now to the subconscious, because we've seen it, we visualized it, we go to our vision board, whatever it may be.
Right. The affirmations and all of that.
All those kinds of things, that's the reality. And then what happens when you go to work the next day?
Yeah, it doesn't match up.
It doesn't match up. You're still at the same lousy job, the same ornery boss, the same whatever it is. And so now what the subconscious does is it begins to sabotage your regular life, your real life, because it's not matching up with your expectation, the image that you have created. And so now you find yourself hating your reality. It'll do even more to sabotage your quality of life, how you see your life.
Right.
The problems that seem to just keep coming. All those things are created because of a false image that's been put into the subconscious mind. Now, the reason why we have this gift, Joe, is that God's given it to us so that we can get inspired ideas.
Mm-hmm.
When we have a problem or a challenge, or we goal setting, those kinds of things, use that imagination to light ourselves up with an inspired idea. When those happen, all of a sudden our passion grows. We get an idea we love, and when we act on it, nobody's pushing us.
Yeah.
We're not in overwhelm or frustration. We're not in criticism or judgment.
It just flows, doesn't it, when you're in that space? Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
Because you're clear, your anchor's pulled up, the sail's set right, and you know where you're going.
Yeah. So what about, I mean, there's so much around, vision board. I've got vision board over there. Vision boarding, affirmations, visualizing, all of that, kind of all of that stuff. What do you, and that's kind of a huge movement out there in the personal development world, and the law of attraction and all of that. How do you kind of react to that? Or is there another, I mean, there's something in that, the book, the Mount Entrepreneur book that you recommended around, if it's a worthy dream, then, well, my interpretation was, then all those things will help bring it about. I don't know. Can you speak to that a little bit? Because we're kind of, so many people are like, right, okay, vision board, affirmations, visualization, trying to do all the right stuff to bring those things into your life that you want. So how does that play out?
It's important to have a vision of where you want to go.
Right.
It gets you excited. I have my vision of doing things, my trips. I'm going to North Carolina this summer to visit our grandkids. Yeah, that's wonderful. I get excited when I think of we're going to go in the swimming pool and all the fun things we're going to do.
Yeah.
Okay. The challenge is with vision boards, or can be, I should say, with vision boards and daydreaming. The challenge is when we go to that place to escape our reality.
Right.
Or we just want life to be easier. So we go to the place where life is easier, where we're already making the 10, 15,000 a month. We're already in our dream job. We're already, the kids are obeying. They're happy. They're everything's.
Hallelujah to that.
If only I could.
That would ever happen.
Yeah, that's when we use that imagination to go to some place to escape, to go to the fantasy island. That's when the problem occurs, because inevitably what happens within 12, 24 hours is life shows up again.
Yeah.
And when life shows up and it's different than where you've been spending your time in your mind, that pushes the cortisol button.
Right.
Cortisol pushes the fear dendrite buttons, the anxiety, the stress, the worry, the overwhelm. It all rolls up.
Yeah.
That's what we're feeling. That's what we're experiencing. Why? Because we're in fantasy island land. We're someplace escaping our reality. Reality shows up, and then the subconscious mind says, this is a dinosaur. Your reality is a threat. We're going to fight, or we're going to run.
Right.
So that's what happens. So if you're using your vision boards, those types of things to get an inspired idea, and then come back to the moment and live in the now with the next small step. You're going to set your sail to just focus on the next most important step and break it down to a small enough piece that it's still predictable for the subconscious mind. It's still a safe place to work.
Right.
So it doesn't fight and pull you and
Right.
try and keep you from moving forward. Did that answer your question?
I think so. I've also read or heard somewhere about when you're using a vision board, it's really important to have things on there that you've already achieved, that are already real. And maybe that, I'm now thinking maybe that's why. And because then it is the actual reality. It's something you've already done alongside, you know, the dreams and goals that you've got for the future.
Okay.
6 months, 12 months, whatever.
And that very well could be a wonderful thing to do. Just remember this, when you're dealing with the lower mind, which is where all your habits are located, it's if you bite off this big chunk, like you get excited, okay, I'm going to go out and start running today, and I'm going to run a mile, but you haven't run yet. And the mind starts to thinking, it's pretty quick, and it starts thinking, man, all the things I got to do, it's going to kill me. Right? Or I'm going to take on this new technology, like doing a Zoom call or something. And your mind says, oh, I'm going to do this Zoom call. It's going to turn out perfect. Or that's what you think. And then, but the mind says, wait a minute, I don't even know how to push the button. And now I've got to learn how to have the lighting right. And I've got to have my script ready. And it says all these things. And all of a sudden it says, whoa, we're putting the brakes on this deal. Fear, anxiety, self-talk, I can't do this. And that's because we have too big of a picture we're trying to capture.
Interesting. Yeah.
So when you go out and you get an inspired idea, yeah, I'm going to go to North Carolina, this is what we want to do. And then you break down, okay, what am I going to do today?
Right, towards that.
Yeah, I'm going to start looking at motels. Okay, great. Flight plans, great. Different things we can do with the kids, great. You break it up small pieces, then you get joy in the you're finding joy in the moment. You don't have to wait until the North Carolina trip, or you don't have to wait until your kids get to an age where you don't have to change whatever diaper, you know. And so right now, many people are in a world that's full of stress, change, and they're waiting for something to happen, Joe, before they can be happy. Before they can find joy in their journey, before they can be peaceful.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's one more quick gift I want to share here because we're about out of time.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it, Doug. Really great content. Got me thinking again.
Okay, the second gift that entrepreneurs have is this tremendous ability to think, effortlessly think. I mean, I can go to bed at night and I can still think for another 3 hours. I mean, it's just going from this to this to that. Most
you need grandkids to wear you out. That's what you need. I'll stop that.
How do I shut this thing down? That's what people say. Oh, I watch a show or whatever.
Yeah.
And, okay, that's a tremendous gift to effortlessly. think. I can't imagine someone who just can't think as effortlessly as I do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's incomprehensible to me. But so this is what happens though. Let's imagine that you have created something you want to do out there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. For example, you want to write a book.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that's what you're thinking about. And you think about this book and you keep thinking about it. You kind of get on this hamster wheel of thinking. And you're developing this idea. And then you throw a little bit of perfectionism in there. And you just got to keep redoing it because it's not quite right. I can fix this thing, that. And pretty soon you spent perhaps hours and days and you haven't done anything.
Right, just thinking about it.
Yeah. Now, what keeps us on that hamster wheel? It's okay to go into a place and start thinking about the book. What's my project? That's excellent to get some direction and clarity.
Mm.
Instead of maybe 15 to 20 minutes or an hour or whatever it is, this is the time I'm going to think about the book. And then I'm moving on and doing something about the book.
Yeah.
But
I know when I wrote my first book, one of the first things I did was just a huge mind map just to get it all out on paper, just all of the different ideas and thoughts. And then from there, you could start to see the connections.
Yeah. But have you ever had the experience, Joe, where you just find yourself thinking and thinking and thinking?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's an entrepreneurial challenge.
Yeah.
So now let's tie in the brain and then I'll summarize here. So what the brain's doing on that, it's predictable for you to be thinking. That's safe. You just keep thinking. I don't have to.
Oh, it's happy. Okay.
Yeah, it's
happy to do that. Okay.
You just keep thinking because I'm safe. I don't have to learn a new skill. Right. I don't have to meet a new person. I don't have to see the rejection. So we're just going to keep you thinking. So it's a habit of thinking to keep you safe, predictable.
Interesting. Yeah.
So if you want to really get a more peaceful mind, lay out your week so the brain knows what's predictable.
Right.
Anyway, so those are the two gifts. There's actually 3 other gifts that are powerful assets, but can also be landmines for entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And so to tie this in real quickly, after going through all these issues with habits of thinking I picked up from going through all this financial issues, business falling, income dropping, kids not wanting to be with us, all these things. Finally, I had so many walls around me that I wasn't letting anybody in.
Mm.
I wasn't letting any new ideas in. I wasn't letting my life move forward because of all the walls I built around me.
Right.
That's the tendency we have, is build walls. Finally, I started working with a mentor of mine, and he introduced me to Mandino.
Oh, right. Yeah.
It's interesting. He was talking about connecting with people, something he learned about connection with people. Each week he'd apply this to his business, and his business began to grow. I saw he was much more happy. He was excited. He was meeting people and just building connections. And each week he'd talk to me, I'd get angrier and angrier because I was stuck behind my own walls.
Right.
And I was jealous of what he was going through, but I wasn't willing to open my door and step out of my prison.
Yeah.
Finally, after 6 months of that,
wow,
he finally says, you got to listen, watch this video. I finally watched the video, and all my walls began to come down because this man was talking exactly about habits of thinking, how they drive us, how to become authentic and real instead of fake and phony. Quit putting on appearances and just be yourself. Live in the now. All these kinds of things that just resonated with me. My walls came down. That's how I started. I took this tool.
Oh, the habit finder.
The habit finder. I took it. I never met the owner of the Mandino group, but I went to his home, and he went through this tool with me.
I went through it with you personally. cool.
personally. And I said, you know more about me than I know about myself. I've never met you before. And it was very positive to become aware of where I was. From there, I started being coached and mentored on taking the habits of thinking I discovered, and then recognizing when they showed up because life showed up, and then how to create a new pattern of thinking. And I began to see my life shift. One big way it shifted, not only in my income and my happiness, but with my daughter.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah.
And he taught me the 5 steps of how to become vulnerable, but the 5 steps of stepping into someone's world so that they feel safe and understood. So their walls will come down and they'll start sharing with you. And that's what I wanted more than anything else with my daughter.
Yeah, that's
So
powerful.
they taught me how to do it.
Yeah.
And we went on a trip to your country, your area.
Oh, you did?
Washington, D.C., where you're at.
Ah, cool. Oh, I thought you meant Britain.
No, I've been there too. I got lost, couldn't find the lifts.
I thought you were talking about some proper tea for a minute there.
Anyway, my daughter decided, she's about 25, 27 years old.
Mm-hmm.
She decided to go on a trip with us. Rare opportunity. We were walking across the Potomac River.
Oh, yeah, that's really nice to us. Yeah.
In the background was the White House.
Mm-hmm.
Springtime, the cherry trees are blossoming. Beautiful, warm. And she and I were back by ourselves, and the moment was there. Mm. And this is why I said her name was Amy, about 5'3", very competitive girl. And I said, Amy, I've been working with a coach to help me to better understand the depression that your grandfather went through and how it impacted me. Oh, wow. Her grandfather had passed away, but she loved him, had a deep relationship with him. And I said, when I was doing this, I finally realized that perhaps I had done something in your life when you were younger where you felt like you just couldn't measure up. And if so, I'm sorry. The whole world stopped, Joe.
I bet, yeah. Wow.
One of those bubbles of time. And she looked at me and she said, Dad, you did.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
But I forgive you. And the walls began to come down just enough. She opened her door into her fortress because she had been through some really tough times. And 2 weeks later, I got one of those very rare phone calls. 9 years, 4 or 5 calls in 9 years. Wow. That she initiated. And she was crying. And she started to unfold a very, very personal experience in a relationship that she had been trying to deal with for 2 years all by herself.
Right, that you didn't know about.
I didn't know about it because she wouldn't open up. And at that moment, my prayer was, God, help me keep my mouth shut. Yeah. And just listen the way I've been taught. Over the next 6 months, we had many calls. And at the end of the 6 months, she called me up one day, shared some exciting news about a business transfer with her work. And at the end, I thanked her for sharing with me. There was a lot of tears in this conversation. You can imagine. And she said, Dad, anymore, you're the first person I call. Oh. And that means more to me than anything else. Yeah. That relationship, that ability to get out of my negative self-talk, my comparison, my judgment, my ability to just step into someone's world and truly listen so that they feel safe and understood. That is one of the most powerful gifts and skill sets a person can learn. But we're not taught how to do that. No. We weren't raised how to do that. And it's all driven by habits of thinking. So as a I guess a gift to people who are on this call, I'd like to give you the experience that I had of being able to do this habit finder profile and then have a 30-minute habit finder consultation with me. There's no charge to this, but it can be a beginning point to help set your sails, raise the anchors, and plug the holes. And so if you'd like to do that, you have the link
do. It's habitfindercoach.com/DougStoddard. That's DougStoddard. I'll also post that with the video later on so that everyone can have that link there. Thank you so much for sharing that, Doug. It had me close to tears then. Especially having a teenage daughter.
Well, it's interesting.
Yeah.
I used to hide behind my life experiences. Now I'm very free to share them because I realize they're great gifts that can help someone else. Yeah,
it helps other people, see what's possible as well, doesn't it? If they're stuck in something similar or even completely different, just to see that the huge change that you've gone through just from unpacking and unpicking those habits of thinking and how powerful that can be. Yeah, and very obviously on the personal side and the business side, business-wise, I know you've grown hugely as well. So yeah, it is.
And I'm enjoying my life.
Yeah, that's the important thing. Yeah.
But you're great, Joe. I really appreciate you allowing me to come on and share this with the.
Oh, thank you. It's been such an honor to talk with you and get to know you these last couple of months. We've had a few conversations and I've learned and grown so much. I really hope everyone will go and do the habit finder because I found it so powerful. And it was a little bit like he could read my mind. It was like, oh, wow, okay. Yeah, I did do that. Okay, yeah. And then, it's then how you change that and how you work with those things, which is, it's exciting stuff. So thank you so much, Doug. Really appreciate that. It was great to speak with you again, as always. And thank you so much for sharing so openly. And again, for the Habit Finder, coach.com/DougStoddard. Go there, do the Habit Finder profile. It's awesome. And you said a 30-minute consultation with yourself as well?
Once they take this, the Habit Finder profile, it only takes 15 minutes to do it.
Yeah.
You're just moving statements or words around.
It doesn't seem like very much. Really?
No.
Some of the things are like, I don't know quite how, But it's astonishing the behind data that comes out of that just from a very simple exercise.
I've been doing this for almost 5 years now, and the math underneath it, each one of those things you move, there's a mathematical equation that attaches a value to it. And so where you place it, and you can't out-figure this thing. So if you take this, don't try and outguess it. Just flow with what's in your heart. But once they push the button, they'll create a link for them to get their results. Okay. But once they push that button, they're done with it. It does over 6 quadrillion, I think it's 6 or 4 quadrillion computations in 2 or 3 seconds. It's amazing how fast it works. And you'll have the results. And then once I get that, I'll get a notification, and then I'll contact the individual, and we'll set up a time where we can do 30 minutes, 35 minutes to find out where they want to go in the next 90 days and where their habits thinking might sabotage them or support them.
I know I found that really helpful because you could kind of explain some of the things that I could see in the results that I got from the report. I could kind of see it, but I couldn't quite translate that to what that means for me and how I can change it and so on. So definitely worth connecting. And he's a lovely guy. He's good to know.
Thank you. That's a paid commercial.
It's actually unusual for me to find someone that can kind of coach me, because I tend to coach other people. So for someone to actually get me talking and be able to coach me.
It's interesting. It seems like everyone needs a coach or a mentor, someone to walk them through.
Absolutely.
See what they can't see.
Yeah. You can't, because you're blind. It's your blind spot. You can't see those things yourself.
Yeah, we don't want to see it.
We don't want to.
So this will be a recording, right?
It will. It will. So I shall finish off the recording. But thank you so much, Doug. Really appreciate your time, and I'll speak to you again soon. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed this call. Do feel free to share it, and yeah, go do the Habit Finder profile. All right. Thanks so much. Bye for now.
We'll see ya.
Bye.